Okay, hello everyone, welcome to another episode. I would like to begin by saying that everyone who lives on this planet quickly comes to realize that our biological existence is temporary. Once we notice this, the work and the life of our mind becomes important. So the human creature, upon recognizing that it's a candle, and the glow and the light of this candle in this format will one day end, then the glow of the candle becomes the focus. People begin wondering more about just their existential purpose, what am I existing for, but with also the journey of their eyes, or the journey of their eyes, which is how the mind is watching all the sight of the senses receive. When we wonder about the body's life, the body can move or it can be still. And based on how it moves and how it comes to stillness, there is the suggestion of a pleasant experience and an unpleasant experience. The human body is even designed in a way where certain ways, if the body moved, it would break it. As if it's very clear that there is a certain possibility of mobility with the body, but not all possibilities, you know. I did see a documentary where they showed that there was this group of peoples somewhere in the world. I don't remember where exactly, but I believe it was in the East. And so if these people had not deviated somehow, this tribe and group of people had gone back to moving four-limbed. So they were actually kind of in a guerrilla style moving. Literally a town of even the person, the man, the woman, the child, they were all moving in this way where their upper body was being used in their mobility. Right now, especially after we've stood up on our two legs, our upper body is not a point of its mobility is different, you know. I would say back in the day, the muscles of the shoulder were, I mean, like just look at the gorilla, it's jacked. Like it's like the upper body was being used in being mobile, so the full body was being strengthened, right? Now I would say, of course, people's legs are stronger than their arms, you know. I mean, aside from training and whatever, I'm just saying the way we're living as people and as creatures. So the reason I'm saying this is that really for the human being, when it comes to the mind's life and the body's life, we're wondering about what's going to happen in existence and what is happening as the experiencer. I need some good music for this part. Hold on, guys. So existence and experience, these are the two dimensions. Existence relates to the body's life. As I was saying, the body can be either, it can be dynamic in a moving state, or it can be still. And eventually we know that the body has been born to a sort of potential and opportunity of movement. And anything that goes beyond this opportunity, the body doesn't mean the body to itself. So when it comes to the body, pleasant, unpleasant. Now, when it comes to the mind, what are the options of the mind? If the body can move and go towards faster movement, or go towards stillness, or even be walk the middle way of a sort of balanced kind of route. What the mind can do is that the mind is much more instantaneous than the body. That means a person looks at a glass in a cupboard, and then their hand moves to pick up that glass, you know. But when it comes to the mind, the moment there's the emotion, the moment the person is thirsty, wants a glass of water, the image is there. They already have see the glass of water in their hand. You know, we don't notice this, but I feel in our mind we live the moment, then we try to walk in accordance to how the mind has lived. In the outer realms are trying to fall into how the inner realms live the outer realms to themselves. So, the mind can be. That means there's two types of suffering: physical suffering on this planet, and there is non-physical suffering, and that non-physical suffering seems to be emotion. And what emotion appears like, it seems, I mean, this is of course my analysis. In the Buddhist perspective, of course, they treat emotions as thoughts that have stayed too long or have become unpleasant. So it's as if a thought is pleasant, right? When it's pleasant, there is no emotion, everything is okay. When that thought becomes unpleasant, they consider that's when emotions arise. But I would add my own commentary to that and say that emotions arise when there is multiple references. That means there is a sense of self being compared to a sense of self from another moment in the space-time continuum. That means the child got pushed when they were younger, they couldn't push back, the child couldn't push back. The child grows up, and then somebody pushes the child, and it's like all this rage since the last time of what the child couldn't do comes out being released. You know, sometimes when you see violence, or even this whole notion, I mean, the more we go back in history, the more the world was a battlefield. You know, but now there is, of course, the concept of bullying. And this concept is hilarious, because if aliens attacked us, then our species would get bullied. You know, then the inferior interspecies bullying wouldn't make sense anymore. You know, the moment there's a bigger challenge, suddenly everybody wakes up. You know, that's the nature of reality. When there's a fire, everybody notices it. You know, let's say back in the day. Now, of course, the world has become, has detached, has let go of itself. We are either suffering as bodies, or we are suffering as unfulfilled minds. And there was someone who said the moment you stop wishing for things is the moment where the value of your life also changes, you know. Suffering that comes from the mind has to do with the discrimination of what is in the moment and what is from another moment. If right now I'm giving a talk and I'm thinking about like the future, what am I going to do like 3 hours from now? Or if I was to think, what am I going to do, or what was I doing 3 hours before this talk, it would be as if an inner event interference, where it's as if the mind is animating an event not local to where its senses are actually active. That means even if something happens in the past and we remember it, our memory is just a drawing on a wall in some sense. That means I remember my childhood, I remember climbing a tree, but when I actually in this moment wonder about what does that memory mean to me, that memory is like a preview. It's just like a snap, it's like a trailer. It's as if when our experiences of life are the whole film, but what we remember from it is a trailer, a preview, you know? Sorry guys, this was on mute and I was speeding through. What I was saying, that every moment has two components, and there's aside from wondering about all the different types of suffering, like what can realistically happen, in the moment we find an object component. Everybody is an object, your biological existence. And then there is the subjective component, where how we're being an object is through a subject, and we feel the subject chooses. People feel they are a subject, and they also feel they are a subject choosing to be other subjects. You know, it's like when a person is happy, we say that's a thought. When a person is sad, that's a thought. So did a thought become another thought? You know, are thoughts like Pokemon evolving? Like what's going on? So the mind has an ability to remember a past and create a future and even compare the potentials of these while still being in the present. We can say when the mind wonders about truth, or when the mind is present, existence is its content. In the present moment, existence, the here and now, it's what is. When we look at the past, as if the mind looks at the past, it is hope. I was thinking of it in the sense that, like, you have to see the past, something hopeless happening, to then wonder about hope. You need to be hopeless first to then have hope. But I would say the mind in the past comes across as memory, as a vague memory. So the past, the mind, its relationship with the past is memories, its relationship with the future is imagination, and its relationship with the present is existence. Now look at how cool this is. That it's like in the past, our memories are imagination technically, or they used to be imagination until we live them. So we can say the past is imagination filtered through the present, how the present occurred, right? But the future is imagination that hasn't been filtered by the present reality yet. That means this is one thing we might have never thought in the linearized view of time, of past, present, future. We didn't think that the present, it's a triangle. The present is like, imagine an inverted triangle. The present is the bottom point, and the two lines, past and future, they are both inner realm. If you notice, it's only the present moment that is in the outer realms. And the present moment is constantly changing. So what it is, it's like the center point of an infinity symbol is the present. It's the here and now. But the infinity, the lines of the infinity, if we were to draw a line through this infinity symbol, the past and the future are inner realm movements prior to the present, as if the present is two-dimensional and the past and the future are three-dimensional. So anytime we're in the present, truth is two-dimensional. Anytime we wonder about the past, how can I be in this moment, but also remembering another moment, which moment am I in? If I remember a memory of years ago, and that memory is as real to me as right now, so which one am I? Do you know? So time in the inner realms dissolves. And I will tell you that we are in the present only visible. In the future, we are a possibility. In the past, we are a potential. When I say the eternal laughter of the temporary, if we identify with our body, we're pretty much watching like this giant, we're watching a technology breakdown. If we are focused on the mind, we are noticing how the technology is being started, as if your materialism belongs to Shiva. Poetically, I'm saying this, of course, I'm just one guy saying this, don't, of course, take these with a playful ear. But to me, personally, Shiva is the owner of matter. It's as if when things end, there is a force behind it. And when things begin, there's a force behind it. And when things are maintained, there's a force behind it. Now, whether these three forces are one force, it's highly probable in higher dimensions. In Vedic thought, they saw the seven upper worlds on this mountain Meru, and we're in the bottom of the mountain. So as we are like on the bottom of the mountain, it means that the higher levels go on towards one singular peak. The truth of this universe may not be human. But if we are only using human methods of analysis, then our analysis is limited to our limited acceptance of the world. Shall we dare as a species usher in the era of the multidimensionally advanced? Most ideological systems on this planet, what they tend to do is rebrand you. That's the nature. That's the nature of the world. When you don't know the language, you are systems outside of you that know the language they occupy space. What that means is if the mind was in the room of reality first, the body doesn't die, it evaporates. A witnessing of the avalanches of elemental constitution. Pretty much attention to the screen of life will shake. You know, honestly, when it comes to the notion of karma, and how a transmigratory soul is required to renounce the dream of a materialistic life to come to its true nature and whatnot, it's literally like we are multidimensional beings. We are in one room of a theater. Now we're watching this film. Now, because we don't know we're separate to the film, we don't know there are other rooms that a being can go. We don't know that there's other, let's say, possible dimensions. But if we treated life as a room where there's a screen, and on that screen meaning is moving, it's as if the human being that notices the screen of life, when the film finishes, when the movie of the film theater ends, there are some people who stay in the theater for the movie to begin again. And there are those who leave the theater. Now, leaving the theater is how the transmigratory soul escapes karma. So if you left the theater, there would be no suffering, there would be no enlightenment. But if there is enlightenment, the suffering is still around, the film is going on. If there is suffering, there's going to be enlightenment, the film is going on. Honestly, if the mind did this, if when a person, let's say right now there's a coffee cup in front of me, okay? So I look at this and I think the thought comes coffee cup, okay? So imagine the moment we saw an object, the thought we had was a projector from our forehead. Imagine a light hologram projector, and the idea of coffee cup and another version of the coffee cup that's in your inner realms, the light hologram overlays on the physical coffee cup. Imagine from some light from your forehead. I'm just saying, because we don't notice, we are overlaying life with our own life force to make meaning, make it have meaning. We forget we are the force of the meaning of what we find. You know, the caveman could have touched fire and want to get rid of it. You know, the caveman might have touched fire and felt it was something new, you know. Like, I could totally see the caveman being so primitive that they would probably, if they found fire, they couldn't tell what burning was, you know. It's honestly a blessing that we have some sort of systemization ability as a species. Imagine there's this enlightened yogi and someone's like, hey man, are you enlightened? And the person's like, what is enlightenment? The most enlightened person doesn't have the concept of enlightenment, because you only have concepts of what you don't have. Honestly, if you have something, the experience satisfies. You know, it's as if when a person is drinking a glass of water, they don't have the thought of another glass of water. The thought is completed by the actualization in the present, right? We don't realize our past and our future are subjective experiences. They're inner realm occurrences. There's something going on with the inner realm. Only the present is in the outer realm. Right now, this moment is the outer realm, you know, and it's very, I can't say, like, emphasize this enough. You don't see a lot of scientists saying this, but it's like Albert Einstein says that we created time, so everything doesn't happen at once. That's the biggest clue that it was meaning requires time. That means time was a creation. So the laughter of an eternal, let's say, being could be that the temporary is the mirage in the desert. Anyways, guys, back to the idea of suffering and to fully paint the vision behind these pictures, behind these sentences. Either all of language is artificial, or reality was never language. And if reality was never language, if we are all being in ways that it doesn't matter if you have a concept for yourself or not. I mean, honestly, if you treat it as a natural being, you can say even knowledge is not local to the brain. The brain localizes knowledge, but the knowledge is in some sense the event, the force behind the event. You know, I could totally see a group of ants move like an object. Let's say you put a sugar cube and you see like a group of ants show up. You see these ants moving the sugar cube, relocating it, you know, or breaking it down and moving it. And what you notice is that if I was to blow, literally just blow air on these ants that are moving, it's as if, how would the ants process what is happening to them? Could they say it's only their free will? Suddenly, if I blow air and the ants fall, let's say, from the table where the sugar cube was on, can the ant says, this is me, this is my soul's journey only, right? So it's factors that are beyond, right? It's beyond the form. That means it's like we have a form, the world has a form, endless possibilities of relationship between the form of the world and the form of the self. You know, and the mystical insight is to recognize that that self doesn't have a form. That means we're in the outer realms. For speech's sake, you have to be an individual. But when it comes to true experience of your nature, you're not an individual. That means the mystic is saying, wonder about your collective rights, but your natural collective rights, rather than just unnatural individual rights, you know? You know, an eternal being cannot suffer. Suffering is only inside time. It's only the comparison between two possible outcomes. If the world only happened in one way, nobody would suffer, because we would not know that it could happen any other way. The only way we're suffering is because in our inner realms we know that something better can happen. That's honestly it. A person suffers. And of course, it's not easy to speak about suffering, you know, there's so many different psychologies. I wrote a poem once. In it, I had this phrase where I said it was like the earth, where it's like many faces face the earth, and the earth faces many faces. And it's the suggestion of all the types of psychological simulations of a relationship, of an individual object in a collective object, but this individual object copy pastes the whole outer view sensory wise as a collective, as a subject. So that means the brain, imagine, copy pastes the world like another layer over the outer realms. Okay, so the subjects are like another layer, and mystics, they make the opacity of that subject of that layer, they change its visibility. Or they just realize it's not the only layer. You live as a body, you'll be fascinated by minds. You live as a mind, you'll be fascinated by souls, which means universal events. Universal events, things that happen where the unknown is moving the known, fascinates the person who's has an inclination towards the metaphysical. Because it's like we know what we've seen. And without mystery, without wonder, without the space to search for more, I mean, what is life? The space can get filled up by the past any second. Any person can in any moment take a snapshot of their whole life and conclude the reality. Yeah, this is what all of this meant. But it's the mystery of the actual film which really is the joy of it. I feel I have had moments where I would say they were eternal. And I'm saying that words can't do it justice, but I would say it was an eternal where I felt I was watching how my life was temporary, so I couldn't feel possibly temporary. I don't know if it was a sort of glitch in the psychology or what it was, but it was for a moment realizing that this whole universe is one event. If it's one event, why am I freaking out about ways I've classified its segments? You know, it's as if the world is one cake and the person's eventually going to eat the whole cake. So it's like, why does it matter if you're cutting it into pieces or you're just biting from it? It's like both strategies work at that point. We should have this view that there's 4 kinds of teachers. Even though this word I constantly say we're on a battlefield, like the teacher and the student, those are just ego. There is no teacher-student. It's just like in a garden filled with flowers. Are there teachers? Are there students? No, there's just natural beings being nature. You know? But the idea of the teacher, I would say, if we were to consider sources of learning, we can say a major source. Anybody who realizes this pretty much becomes an explorer and an innovator. The unknown world. You can learn from how the world is unknown. You can learn from how your sense of self is unknown. You can learn from your known self. That's learning from your past. You can learn from your known world. And so we have built a system, a civilization, I would say, civilization 1.0, yeah. It trains you to be a known self. Yeah, you can totally become, you know, as Emil Durkheim says, the family unit provides, you know, what functions to give the society even structure. So the person is like a known self. Yeah, people have told me I'm this. I've told myself I'm this, you know. And then the known world. Oh my God, this is what I know about the world. You know, these are the laws of science. These are, I don't know, the sayings from long ago. You know, this is the known world, the known self. After you play with these, after you play with this, like going through the infinity symbol again, like as if it was a roller coaster, after you have played with the known self and a known world, then your teachings come most likely from the unknown self. Because once you can trust your unknown self, it becomes very easy to navigate in an unknown world. But this unknown self isn't esoteric costume games. And that's the biggest challenge of this world. In a society that has a desire for truth, how can we suggest that the desire makes the mule chase the carrot? That's the biggest issue with desire. It's not that it's like the desire, and let's say the person fulfills the desire. You know, or let's say it's in a temporary world, you satisfy a temporary desire. Let's say you're hungry, you eat food. Yeah, it was a good meal. But there is so much more. I'm pretty sure there's going to come a time where the biggest challenge for me in trying to give these talks is how do I keep it interesting for myself? And I have to constantly wonder about something unknown in the world or some unknown component about the self, because the known is known. You know? So when you learn from your unknown self, you can say those are people who, I don't know, they know they are unknown somehow. Those people who experience synchronicities in the outer realms, outer experiences, that's when the unknown world is teaching you. At that point, you're not learning as a person. You're learning as a momentary event taking place. So you don't learn from just your sense of self or your sense of world. You learn from watching how the unknown is moving the known. And once you become content with that, then it's this strange thing where the creature doesn't have a purpose in a story anymore. So you are the unknown. Once you remember you are the unknown, society has trained us to feel we're the known first and the unknown. And that's why we fear the known changing. If we were all unknown, imagine children of the world, they ask they grew up and they asked their parents and they're like, what am I? And the parents were like, you're the unknown. That means we know this much, but realistically, it's too big to know specifically. You know? It's too big and it's too changing. So then people will be like, holy shit, we're still unknown. They will care to advance. They will care to find the new. And if love was a repetitive experience, a person wouldn't find it. It has to be something new. We love the new, believe it or not. It doesn't matter what it is. Just like the Transformer was a worn out car, and it saw a better car and transformed into a better car, human beings have ideals, right? Every person, in order to even have a system, you need to have an ideal. When we treat ideology as a room, do you know how much peace there's going to be on this earth? People will not get angry at language anymore. War starts from language, by the way. Isaac Asimov says violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. And I would say war is also the last refuge of the incompetent. It's the same. Because when a person can use the mind to solve a problem, they don't need to use the body yet, right? If they're using the body to solve a problem, let's say the person's some thugged out ego, let's say it's an ego of a thug. Okay, the ego of the thug is like, you dismiss what I am to myself in front of me, blah, 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 blah. It becomes intense, right? So it's as if there isn't that flexibility to realize we don't know what the world is, right? Our knowledge in this modern age and the information explosion, even though it has been an advantage in regards to globalization, it has also made us distrust in thinking that specific information is truth. No. Truth for the human being, the living truth, is more like a surfboard. That means surfers are closer to enlightenment than professors in universities. They're closer to the reality of things. Because every philosopher knows the ivory tower is designed to go up and get a view, then come back down. The ivory tower is not designed to stay in. It's as if we had wings, we wouldn't need skyscrapers. We might actually not build skyscrapers. Skyscrapers may never be built even. If we had wings, we were just like, why? We don't need it. We'll just fly into the air. We just create like masks. There's some sort of armor that won't make us freeze if we flew into the air or something. And it's honestly our lack of ability that's causing the world to evolve. I'm just thinking about it. If we all had everything right now, if every person on the earth, all their desires were given. Like we had this robot called, robot that ran with this program called Desire, right? And this program, Desire program was like, all right, any moment human beings have desire, I will meet it. Right, so if the person desired a puppy, out of nanotechnology, this advanced AI would generate a puppy or something, even though highly improbable, but so I'm saying that if all the desires were met, if our physiological suffering was gone, only the mind suffering would be there, and the mind suffering is either you gotta accept, or if you don't accept, you gotta work. There's two things. A person who accepts something, they have no reason to work. That means if the person house is half built and the person accepts that, they'll never finish the house. Those people who sometimes accept too soon don't get to see what comes after. In many, I would say, maybe see it as a commentary on the karmic movement, on karma's movement. You know, it's like someone asking the Logos, what do I do with the loneliness of the journey? And the Logos responding, a moment will come where you will realize you are everyone. If we can bring that moment now, genius chess move of the species. If we could live as if our family is our whole species, incredible advancements would happen. There would be issues in regards to trust, and different psychologies working differently, because a human being needs space. Anybody who wants to work, they need to have a space to work in. You know, if the writer doesn't have a table, he's not going to think about holding the pen and sitting down and writing on a piece of paper. You know, so it's like in this society, some people have to go create the pen, some people have to go create the table, and then the future, some people have to go find the paper, and then the future generations are going to be like, no way, these three things are conveniently here, let me write the future. It happens. That means, I was thinking that imagine an ant hill or a beehive. Imagine all the bees and the ants had egos. Imagine the queen ant was like, yo guys, go help us survive, you know, and the other ants were like, no, you know, you're not the boss of me. You know, the ego denies the collective efficiency in accordance to nature's collective rhythm. What that means is those birds who fly in the sky, and those geese, let's say Canadian geese, proud Canadian geese who fly in the V shape, you know, the idea of it is that it's not an ideological association, it's an energetic, rhythmic participation. And so if civilization can become something where a person can find it efficient to participate in it, then decide who they will be, right? So all it requires is to spectrumize, how do I say it? It's like the species just needs to learn one technique, like a one martial art technique, and then it can defend itself till ad infinitum. But it's not a martial art technique, it's an algorithm, behavioral algorithm. Because right now our behavior is being our civilization, right? Somebody goes and does something extreme, that affects the behavior of other people in civilization. Somebody doesn't do something extreme, civilization continues its extremeness, you know? So psychology is branched out, and ideological possession is everywhere, you know, and it feels like we can only build an advanced civilization if we're timeless and multidimensional, which means no one person is right, but at the same time, no one person is wrong. Every one person has the potential of something that the collective can arise, right? Because we're treating the universe like a book where it's written before imagined, but Mr.Within's telling everybody to treat it like a notebook. When you treat it like a notebook, you have freedom. You treat it like a book, what was written before defines it. Because realistically, what advice can, let's say, a human being be given? I'm just even fathoming it. I'm just saying, let's say aliens came down and somehow we could speak to those aliens. And imagine, like, someone going to the alien and like, let's say they're peaceful, advanced aliens in the future. They land and shake. What am I listening to? Hold on, guys. We're timeless and multidimensional. Sorry guys, I just noticed the kilobytes per second on the live stream sometimes go down to 0, so there may be some parts of the talk that are not actually being relayed by the software. So I don't know if that's the case. People can let me know what it feels it could be. Imagine that advanced alien could be asked, like, how should human beings live? Honestly, like, that's what I would ask. I would say, what is your advice to humanity? Let's say an advanced alien species, and I'm thinking realistically, what could the alien say? The alien could be like, yeah, you gotta biologically live well, so do that, and we'll be like, okay, we're doing that, and then and then the extraterrestrial is gonna be, okay, now when it comes to your mind, you have to realize your energy or you're going to be bound to form. So unless the species realizes we are multidimensional, right now we're treating ourselves as a leaf on a branch of a tree. When we realize we're the branch, we become multiple leaves. When the civilization reaches a point where the responsibility, the ability of the consciousness becomes to hold multiple bodies in motion, it also means multiple narratives. So that means if in the future you have one biological body, but you connect your head to some advanced cyberspace technology and you have, let's say, 7 android bodies, or you have 8 android bodies, okay, you would be like a cat where you would have 8 lives. The consciousness would simultaneously maneuver into 8 robotic bodies and 1 biological body, but you would experience as if you are the mind of 8 bodies. So at that point, even though the biological body is like the central body, it's like the last life of the cat, just like a cat has 9 lives. Let's say a human mixed with AI has 9 lives, but it has 8 android lives and 1 human life. So that human life would be treated as safety. So the human life would become the headquarters for the psychological simulation. So that means this is a point where AI is going to get so complex that it's going to adjust to the human being's psychological movement rather than amp up the human's neurology to match the AI. Because in one manner we lose our humanity. So the first thing AI should, in a relationship of human beings with even computers, should be that the AI knows how important it is for us to remain biological. That means interference inside the biology, I would say, is a no. As if like that's one kingdom that needs to be protected, the walls of the biological kingdom. It's literally our king ideal. It's a royal ideal to be a natural, biological human being. To defend that idea is like you're defending the royalty of nature. For the mind, it's generative. That means the mind can just watch the moment, or it can engage what it watches. That's pretty much it. All of human life is effort, no effort. Now, and it's just being directed. That means after 4.5 billion years in the making, a creature emerged that for the first time could choose something that the world didn't choose for it. I wrote in, this is something cool and new, I'll share with the audience. I wrote a story where I thought of, sometimes I just sit down and I write fiction, as well. And I was thinking of trying to write a medieval fiction where in this kind of medieval era there was an army, and it was called the Laughing Army. And this army never killed anyone. They were just an army that would go, and they would, in some sense, say like it was back in the day, so it was medieval, it was people were more wild. But it was this, imagine this idea of an army that just laughs. This army goes and they're just walking. The army's just walking, people have their swords out, but they laugh, right? And so imagine one soldier comes and attacks another soldier from the laughing army soldier attacks a soldier from the other army, and the whole army is shocked, like, what is this army doing in front of us, right? And then the whole army starts laughing, and eventually everybody starts laughing. And can you imagine, like, this concept, even we build up from this, the concept of this laughing king. This king that just became a king because he laughed his way to kinghood, you know? Can you imagine? You know, there was no violence. People laughed at how bizarre existence was, and they united over the bizarre, you know? Because you can see it. Evil people unite over cruelty. Good people, it's archetypally, unite over joy. That means they share their joy and others share their misery. Pretty much these are the types of human beings we have. You know, you're either putting an energy in the outer realms that's above the outer realms, that's more just stronger than the outer realms to how you perceive, or lesser. That means we're either weak or strong. It's a coin flip. And this coin flip can become choice. If I had a time machine, I'd go back in time and just snap myself out of the belief that I was a certain kind of self, and that there were so many ways my eyes was moving to my own self. And it's kind of hilarious too, you know, if we have the view we are everything, like an eternal being, then an eternal being doesn't need to be temporary. Like, how can something eternal have a temporary purpose? You know, it can't. It's based on what we're being that our idea of purpose comes. If you're being weak, then your purpose is the weak man's purpose. If you're being strong, your purpose is the strong man's purpose. If you're being honest, your purpose is the honest man's purpose. You know, if you're being dishonest, the same. You're being dishonest. So it's kind of like, what are we inputting as a behavior into the world that shows that how the world receives our behavior is our karma, really, because we're an energetic influence in the moment, and it cannot be ignored. You know, a person may hide behind their eyes until they realize this world is here for them. Dreams that become celestial. That we see a civilization that, even though we don't have jetpacks on, we have. In our minds, we can wear anything. We can be anything. We can move as darkness. We can move as light. We can be the greatest teaching of the shadow, or we can be the servant of the light. And I think it's time for the species to come full circle. The mystery is language. That means the metaphysics of the realm is limited to storytelling. And how beautiful is it that we were never stories, but we're telling them all the time. We're living through them, and our knowledge is even dependent on them. We have built a civilization for bodies. To build a civilization for minds means to create new algorithms for behavior that are closer to being global. I noticed that people you see in the United Nations, You see, and just generally, people are talking about a global effort, and we've stayed national for so many decades, centuries, right? So if there's this idea of wanting to be global, if we try to be one step ahead and we're behind that one step, right, we have to attempt to be 2 steps ahead. So 1 step is already the next success. So people should start behaving as universal beings. And this is really crucial, because if you behave universal, the global becomes your simplicity. But if you make the global the complex problem, that means I'm sitting here, and in my schooling days, I was taught of great leaders, And so the issue was, it was a global inspiration, but if you have a universal inspiration, the global effort becomes simple. It's as if we're assuming it's already there. It's as if, let's say something global happens. Let's say in the future, nations are like, yeah, we united. There's no nations anymore, guys. Nations have become sub-nations of one collective nation. We would want a civilization that's like, yeah, we've been living like that in our inner realms for a while. Glad you caught up, outer realm, We are universal. It's nothing big to be global. Everybody should treat themselves as a global human being if you want to experience a possibility that has never been there before. You see, that's what I realized. The world has never seen itself. There was this artist named Michael Jackson, and he's considered as one of the first people to experience super fame. And I thought about what that meant, being a person where in the outskirts of countries, like everywhere they know it, where people are copying his way he's moving, So it's as if he was a personality that became global, right? The moment the global opportunity arose. It arose through films, then it arose through the internet. One day, people will realize filmmaking is the biggest study of life, the biggest study of visual existence on the screen of what the mind of the person is being. And where will it all go? We either, as a species, honor our ego and pretty much overpopulate the whole universe. Pretty much the strategy of the species is to have, honestly, like sex all over the universe. It's like, why are we advancing civilization? To enjoy ourselves on the beaches of planets we haven't ever seen before. That's kind of like the human ego. We want to become a type 3 civilization, which from the Kardashev scale, like a type 1 civilization harnesses the power of its planet, the type 2 civilization harnesses the power of its star, of its solar system, and then a type 3 civilization harnesses the power of its galaxy. Something in these lines. So what does that mean? That means galactic visions have popped their head out, and the world is no longer just on an on-planet basis. That means human beings, it's as if the more suffering in the outer realms, the more we will desire to be something else. They said that spirituality is really where a person ends up after they experience the true suffering of existence. Something true, something real, something that snaps out that they are not just an idea. Whether it's through I will mention the different yogas, whether somebody takes the path of love, where they look at this world and they're like, I love it. And bam, suddenly the world loves them. And their input and their output has become universal. That means the path of love is the quickest way to be a universal being. Compassionate community service. That's what a really fast way to become universal. And the Dalai Lama was the one who really pointed this out. I noticed it from why I was like, why is this man, there's so much wisdom in Buddhism, why is he just talking about compassion? Because that's what the outer realm needs, not that because the man didn't know. Because the outer realm needs to accept itself and then advance. And if we can't accept ourselves in whatever form, it's like we're going to have so much trouble accepting each other's minds. Right? And it's like the only way we can truly come to a position where we can accept each other's minds is if we realize we're more than the mind. That means you can only climb a tree if you're not the tree. All those people who become non-dual, where you become the tree, you can't climb the tree anymore. There's no need. There's no individual purpose. Pretty much, I mean, honestly, I see a landscape, so I can, maybe I could share it this way. There was a scene in Lord of the Rings 2 where Theoden King, he gives this speech about, you know, the sun rising. Yeah, people are pumped, and they go and they get rid of the army of the orc. You know, that kind of like orc with the, you know, kind of unique face. That orc with the unique face, his army gets conquered. Theoden, human beings have come, and a human kingdom completely separate from another human kingdom has come to help its ally. You know, that means friendship has not just been between people; it has also been between kings and kingdoms long ago. You know, of course, I'm talking about Lord of the Rings, which is completely fiction because orcs don't exist in our So, Theoden King, he wins the first battle, and all the men are happy and cheerful. They're like, we did it, we got rid of the enemy. Then Theoden King turns around and looks and sees these giant mammoths, like WTF mammoths, just appearing out of nowhere, attacking the kingdom. And the actor plays it so well, where in the facial gesture, facial expression of the king, you could see in his mind, he's like, oh shit, you know. But what does he do? He's a king. What does he do? He gets the horn of Rohan, and he hits the horn, and he says charge. He organizes and he retaliates. So what that means is, it doesn't matter how weak you are, how strong you are, or whether we are a weak civilization or species or a strong civilization. It's just whatever we've achieved, we use all of it to retaliate against the next universal challenge, you know. So honestly, in the eyes of that actor, Theoden King, like the way that character was made is the response of the human civilization. Where whatever we have, through natural formations, we march forth into the unknown. That means that horn that Theoden King, he blows that horn. That horn is literally the ethos of civilization, the story that is going to cause all human beings on this rock in the middle of nowhere to respond that to how, regardless of how cruel existence may appear, its conditions meaningless, to fully live the consciousness is the greatest rebellion against existence. that means you're like, existence? You're gonna take me out of existence? Well, I'm gonna exist in the best way I can. You know, the person's fighting time, you know, to realize that the story of their life is a playful event. You know, I realize, wait a minute, a flower in a garden doesn't have problems. Why do I? You know, a lotus in a pond doesn't have problems. A tree doesn't have a problem. You know, they're just part of nature, existing, playing their part, and then exiting. You know, as simple as that. And based on the faculty of intelligence, because if the thing about intelligence is that it has to bring response, because the more you see, the more significant or implication something has. That means it's as if they said a house is burning, and the person's like, oh, the firemen will fix it, and then they said it's your house that's burning though. The person's like, help me, run, help me. You know? So it's like, that's the thing. We have to realize the inefficiency of the human species is every person's house burning. Because all that wisdom can be is a polished mirror. I feel like reading for the audience an entry. I gotta find the email. It's something I wrote in 2015 to 17. Okay. All right. So this essay from the source of language, it's called the Satsangs of God. The essay is called the Satsangs of God. And a satsang is think of it like a spiritual gathering for enlightenment, you know, just very simply I could say it. So this is, I'm saying the satsang, the spiritual enlightening gathering of God, like that's kind of what the title's saying. The satsangs of God, or maybe the satsangs God gives, or whatnot. So that's the name of the essay, and the book's called The Source of Language, just essays on language. Let me find it, you know, there we go. What is free is a moment prior to the word in quotations free having to mean anything. So one can say the true essence of freedom seems to be the awareness sparked by a direct experience already being. The words in quotations direct experience are beautiful. And what it simply implies is that conceptually you're wondering about how direct experience is defined, but suddenly realize whatever you consider as being directly experienced and is happening. But suddenly realize whatever you consider as being directly experienced is happening right now. The witness, capital W, is present. Every moment, every moment manifestation is allowed in your range of attention. Beyond that sphere, the unknown is too unknown to be known. The search stops and the moment adjusts itself in its natural state. The natural forces of this world cannot go ignored. We are one collective cosmic organism that cannot just be defined by an individual part of it. The beauty of self-realization is the awareness of the unattainable within all that desire's grasp is trying to attain in an endlessly, infinitely changing universal void. The simplicity of silence allows the complexity of speech. Divine lips shall move once the self realizes itself within all things and beings. What can ink of an empty page communicate that your moment is not already being? The mind structure is how a multiverse was a universe. Next step, until the emptiness, divine fulfillment guides itself. All wondrous meanings are collectively maintained. All of life is at best all about abiding in the self. How are you speaking about time? The desire of thought is a non-existential projection. The heart of desires is filled with instruction. The beauty of human existence was always now. Suffering can be only removed when ideology and the destined fulfillment into the divine. Excuse me. I missed the line. Suffering can only be removed when the externalized attention of your true nature is internally rediscovered through the emptiness of all ideology and the destined fulfillment into the divine by the divine. Who is the witness and can the mouth do the work of the eyes? Is the source of language void to a present multidimensionality? What weaves existence into place is a hand beyond individual reach. Who am I? The I, in quotations, I is not a heard truth. The world spins as one. Time and space are unnecessary separations in the void of the seer. Very few have found an inclination to go within and discover their true nature. Those who have are guided by cosmic grace. For what keeps the veil of illusion is belief in duality as the first stepping stone. The mind is a projection of a self. Perhaps that is why we say my mind. So the self is beyond the mind, and the mind fundamentally has relative meaning based on the definitions of language, inspired by the changing current environment. Ideology can never replace your true nature, which is beyond thought. Rather than trying to find an unknown heavenly union, wonder how you are separate from existence. Are you separate from existence? Question mark. Life and death are not crops awaiting the scythe. The all-pervading super-consciousness and the soul of souls must be acknowledged from within. Become sincerely desireless for a day, and you shall be enlightened by night. You will look at the sky and see yourself one with the stars. You will bow to starlight as it has bowed to you. You will stop the games of the mind and language, and you will abide in your true self that is beyond the judgments of others or yourself. Your breath is the link that allows heaven and earth to dance in your eyes. Conscious breathing is key. The Pure Lands have become your lungs. We are on a rock spinning in the middle of space, among a billion trillion stars, and we somehow exist, being able to ask questions about our source. Evolution is so divine, it's unbelievable. Many systems shall crumble, as the truth never needed help. All guides have guides. There is much to say, but very few that can be said. As new lanterns of vision are lit up within you, that absolute activity that is how manifestation moves is incomparable due to the dynamism of change and natural shift in your attention. Are you a concept or a collective phenomena that is your whole moment beyond distraction? I remember a time where I sat on a rock in the middle of a stream, and as the stream moved past me, I wondered where is existence heading. It took a while, but it suddenly dawned on me that the existence I see changing can't be the only existence. For what existence is aware of changing existence? God is an interesting word, but heaven's arrow was always pointed within. I noticed in quotations who was a part of existence, feels it can move. But does the eternity of existence move? Does the here and now ever go anywhere? Does the here and now in quotations ever go anywhere? Many smirks have bloomed once language has stopped and intuition has been reborn as always being the guidance of the oneness of all that is. Does truth have orbiting orbits? A king sheep once adopted an abandoned lion. A king lion once awakened a sleeping sheep. Once the celestial lion that you are looks in the pond, it will roar to remember its true nature. Man's nature of mind is similar. Beyond ideas we are free, and freedom itself. We are like one light beam reflected off many mirrors of reality. The essence of pure intelligence is something to be remembered and nothing to be learned. Language can be elusively cruel, but not the presence of the universe. Life lives for life. Life lives for life. Behind misty clouds, you are the radiance of an open sky. The face in the clouds is a new and unique view in each of our minds. Whose face are you seeing? Who can be their self and see everything else? And that's how it ends. Who can be their self and see everything else? So anyways guys, thanks for listening. I'll open it up to Q&A for 5 minutes for those who have a question on the topic or similar matters. And Lorna says a question. She says, how do you find your part in the chat section? How do you find your part if you like several things? How do you find your part if you like several things? Well, first you find your part by noticing where you are, right? So you gotta first notice the whole system which you're a part of, right? So if I'm part of human civilization, I gotta look at human civilization. What does that mean? You know, and then what does it mean to be a part of human civilization? You know, So it would be a view, an overall view, kind of like a bird flying into the sky, seeing the whole forest from the sky, then coming back down to the branch, and then it knows it has chosen the branch it goes on. So I would give you that kind of answer. That it's nature, so trust nature, and it's like a notebook. If you see an opportunity, you can just like think of it this way. Invention is not just inventing an object. Every moment the mind, which is the brain's doing, what the brain is doing is reinventing itself subjectively quicker than how it's objectively changing. So the brain, the mind is faster. The mind's life is faster than the body's life, but in different contexts and different angles. Anything, just like a word has a different meaning in a different sentence. All ideology has multiple meanings, you know, depending on what it's correlating to. If it's only correlating to existence in the present, then its meaning is just matter, just what's visible. So I'm saying pretty much questions can be asked from an observable universe and also from an unobservable universe. Daniel in the chat section says, how do you live without desire? Okay. And then Daniel says, like, it's totally incompatible with what it takes to survive. This is what I do. If you're asking me, I'll just give a personal answer, okay? Rather than a general. So here's my view. I think when I look at the moment, I didn't do this when I was young, but the moment I notice the inner realms, I ask myself in any situation, right, what is it that I want that is actual in the moment, and what is it that's not actual, right? So ever discovering the ability that the mind can be used like an instrument, for me, my outer realm desires have become less. So I'm living kind of minimalistically in a dervish vibe, kind of, you know. But then the mind's life is very active, right? And when it comes to desire, it's like two films, right? If the inner realm desire is more than the outer realm desire, you can become even violent. You could feel like the world owes you, you know? And, you know, you could desire, here's the thing, if you desire something that is, okay, let's say a person desires to move a backpack, a heavy backpack from one place to another, and let's say someone desires to move a building, right? They're both types of desire in the outer realm, right? One desire, the person moved the backpack, completed the desire, reached the end of the desire, end of what it wanted, the outcome, right? The backpack went to place A, went to place B. The person who's trying to move the building can't move the building. So because that desire, first of all, it's not a realistic desire, but that means that's a good filter to have. Is my desire realistic, or is it just an emotion out of control in the moment? So I would use the filter, Daniel, of the inner realm and the outer realm. Outer realm desires are necessary. Like, we gotta eat food, right? So when you get super hungry, then you'll be like, there's nothing wrong with desire. I need something to eat, you know? So that outer realm, the point is the attachment to the inner event, right? So if I go to a group of people, right, let's say, and I say, everybody has to sit in a certain way, you know, and I have this inner realm desire for the outer realms, right? People who don't want to sit that way, it's like they're not going to sit that way. And my inner realm desire is going to generate self-suffering. You shouldn't desire enlightenment because it's an idea, right? It's an inner realm. So you're desiring something from the inner realm. So the thing about the inner realm is, first check how and see how you're not enlightened. You know? That means the same unknown possibility, you know, 50-50, you know? How do you know? But anyways, joking aside, let's get back to this idea. So you have outer realm desires that are necessary for physiological survival. You can't ignore it. Literally, you need food to eat, you need water, you need shelter, you need a certain body temperature, right? So these desires, to go against them is ignorance, right? To suddenly be like, I don't want to eat food because I'm an eternal being, you know, ignorance, right? Ignorance in the outer realms. In the inner realms, it could be true. In the inner realms don't need to eat, right? They're a subject. A subject doesn't need, per se, the concept of food. It's independent from a different way. So the idea, no. The idea is not to act. The idea is you understand more, right? It's not to say don't have desires. It's not that. It's not. You shouldn't think of. You should think of right now. You don't understand what desire is, right? So let me look at it again and to see what desire is. That means you want to understand your desire before getting rid of it or accepting it or making it ultimate, right? Doesn't that make sense? We look at what it is, then accept it. Right? So the person has to look at the desire. And I'm saying the desire comes from either the inner realm or the outer realm. If it's a desire in the inner realm, your inner realm is moving faster than the outer realm. So you become like that kind of agitated kid who didn't get the candy. You know? If you're if in your inner realms it's going too fast, right? If the inner realms are dependent on the outer realms changing for the inner realms to prove something to them. That means if you need the outer realm to be a certain way for yourself to be an idea, then that's weakness, right? The greatest wisdom is to realize that there's something independent of the outer realm. Like that's the miracle in the room, you know? So what I'm saying is, physiological desire, don't fight it, be smart, okay? Be like the body needs to eat, I gotta feed my own body. You know, I've reached points where I've had, like, this is the dangers of saying even going too egoless, right? I'll tell you this, where I have not had an ego for food. So I've suddenly lived in, my attention has been so focused on a certain work that I haven't noticed I haven't ate for a long time, do you know? So desire, it's even important to have healthy. See, it's not even, it's like, don't even call it a desire, call it a necessity. That's what Maslow, the sociologist Maslow, called it, right? These are needs, right? So in the outer realm, you need to eat food, right? Or the body breaks down. You know, you need the basic. But now inner realm desires, they cannot be there, right? I've literally walked in the street, you know, and seen such a beautiful girl that in my mind I've seen like a desire, in my inner realm I've seen a parallel universe of a lifetime, you know, with that girl. But the moment I was late and I had to keep going, and the moment I went, my attention left that room of desire, right? It completely went to something else, like a wind. It was in that moment there was some meaning, right? Then I moved. I had to go somewhere, the attention moved on. Right? So that's the thing I'm saying. It's like first question, who has desire? You know, it could be that desire is the self, right? If we have no desire, what? We're gonna just be statues, just standing in the street, just like a statue. You know what? Desire is in the outer realms a reason to live. You know, we desire survival. We desire the survival of the species, right? So you in your inner realms can not have desire by understanding yourself not as a thought, right? But in the outer realms, to ignore desire is to ignore, like, eating food. You know, it's not, in the outer realms is a totally different analysis of desire than the inner realms. Now, in the inner realms, why the person shouldn't even think I want to live without desire or not. You should keep it unknown and let the world move and then choose to be known. There's this hadith, there's the saying in Sufi tradition, okay? It's unauthenticated in certain views, but there's this saying, they say, the Sufi dervishes, they entertained this. They said that it was as if God said, I was unknown, and I made the world, and I made man in the world so that I could make myself known to myself, right? So it's as if God was unknown to itself in that, yeah, that's the sentence, of course, that's just a, you know, a sentence in history, but I'm saying, like, the idea behind it is, if man is experiencing life as known, if there was something beyond man, how would it experience itself? It could be our fear or artificial love for the unknown that is not allowing us to truly experience the unknown, right? So I'm saying, Daniel, if you woke up not having an opinion, you know, just going simple, think of it this way. I think it's like this: a person wakes up, and then, like a phone, they click on different applications, and different applications begin running throughout the day, you know, based on the person's own performance. It's as if a memory machine begins becoming activated when the person becomes conscious, right? Where they are like they're observing their life as it's happening. I have had experiences where I've sat in nature and I've become selfless. Literally, my attention has went to the birds, has gone to nature, has gone to moments, and then I've realized, oh wow, for some time now, like, there is no thought. I'm just viewing. I'm just a viewer. I'm like a camera, you know, like literally like a biological camera. You know, that's just recording. And when the camera's not obsessed with itself, it really sees what's in the outer realms properly. So when I went to the outer realms, I realized, like, just that meditation, it was kind of like, yeah, this is simple. Existence is elementally simple, and there's endless overlays of events that have made it into this complex appearance. So complexity is an illusion of a simple truth, but many simple truths in a strange way. That means it's, if Edison asks, should I have desire, like the yogi said, I have desire before building the light bulb, I'll be like, no man, you should have a desire in the outer realms. But if Edison asked, should I go mess up Tesla and bother Nikola Tesla to compete with him, I would say no, that's an unnecessary desire, right? Anytime we stop seeing globally or universally, then a sort of tyrantry goes on. The being that sees the global future, you can't be evil, because you see, it's like, realistically, that's what happens. We're different DNA, we're different systems. These systems eventually will globalize. Like, it's just that's just the logic of overpopulation. And it's not that overpopulation is a problem. We can counter it with sky cities, but there's so much more. I would say, for me, it's not, when I wake up, I don't think about desire. I try to see, like, I treat the world unknown and myself unknown, and as I live in the moment, the known occurs, knowledge occurs. So when you don't have an ego on yourself, when you don't have an ego on the world, there is no ego. You know, the ego's like, what is this? I can't be a self, I can't be a world, like, what am I? Then it's like truth breathing, you know? For example, right now in this moment, I have a desire to, I don't know, build a global network of communicators around the planet, right? That's a desire. Right? But I realize, because it's in the future, what can I do? Do I want to just stare at my future desire? Right? Or if it's something in the past, let's say the idea of, like, School of Athens was a past idea. It's just the desire is outcome. And once the desire was fulfilled, I feel the smartest way, in secular culture, it's hard not to just have desires. I would create another strategy. I would say, wonder about after your desire. That means, let's say a person wants to buy a jacket, right? The person wonders about that jacket on themselves. They're about to go in the store, buy it, but they wait. And then they wonder about, okay, let's say I had this jacket for a year, then they go through the seasons in their mind. And as they're going through the seasons, they're like, okay, this jacket is perfect only for one season, right? So I'm saying you can, in your inner realms, the desire is the future. Either speed up the future, go 10 steps ahead, wonder about 10 years what's going to be before you buy that jacket, wonder how you're going to feel about that jacket in 10 years if you had it, right? So that would be a point where it's not that the desire is gone, but the desire is not the same desire. The competition came after the AC was created, Lorna, not before. It's after the competition. The AC/DC was Nikola Tesla made the AC motor, then Edison got jealous. And Edison was like, he overreacted by, like, I don't know, electrocuting animals with direct current to show off technology. Can you imagine? It's like, yeah, guys, look at this. You know, this is a cow, we're gonna electrocute it, and so buy this technology, folks. You know, it electrocutes cows, you know. But Nikola Tesla, he was looking at the future. That's why we care for him, right? We care for Edison too. They were both great minds. That means even though their characters were, like Edison's character could be questionable, but they were great in what they did that had never been done before. That means it doesn't matter if you're a good person or a bad person. When you do something never done before, it has a value. I would say desire is not the focus. The focus is not fearing the mystery of life and living alongside it. I don't know what greater wisdom there can be. Lao Tzu has this story that he used to have disciples, and with one he would go on silent walks in the forest, like a couple hours of just like, can you imagine? Like, that's like a liberated being, like walking in the forest just with silent walking, right? And then one day a disciple comes, this disciple that was always quiet, at the end of them, the journey that they've walked, the disciple, right before they get out of the forest, in the silent walk, the disciple asks a question, and Lao Tzu never goes with any disciples again, you know. But the idea of a silent walk, now imagine it's an unknown silent walk. What can you desire when you don't know, right? You can only desire when you know something, when the variable is known. When the variable is unknown, desiring the unknown is like a person wanting to run into a part of the forest. It's like, instead of the person traveling properly in the forest, the person is like, I just want to see something else. They just want to see the, I don't know how to say it. And the idea is not just desire. I mean, like, it's not wrong to desire, right? Love is a kind of desire. That means if love didn't have a desire, it's as if the animal participatory part of it would become like impossible, right? And the cool thing is, some of our desires are chemical, especially in this modern age. You know, they are behavioral, they could be media, it could be like, imagine you were in a room and people in the room were like, I desire cheesecake, I desire cheesecake. Everybody's shouting it. After a while, you go, let's say you hate cheesecake, right? But then you go into a restaurant or something and the person's like, sir, would you like the cheesecake? And you're like, I like cheesecake. And you're like, where did that come from? Because you were living in a room where the room was programming the desire for you, right? So to think of it this way, that you got to figure out what are your real desires and what are desires that the environment, like Grima whispered in like Lord of the Rings and like that Theoden King's ear, you know. And here's the thing, desire can transform into passion when it becomes real, by the way, right? So you can say a person has a desire. Edison had a desire for the invention. The moment he found the parts for the invention, and in his mind he could see he could use those parts to build it, that was passion, right? So your desires can teach you, can lead to passion, right? And that passion then can be wielded efficiently, right? Because realistically we're energy, right? Like right now, whatever analysis of the psychology we have, we're just energy in the space, nothing. Pretty much conscious energy is another word for soul. It can't be created or destroyed, but transforms from form to form, from life to life. So it depends on the unknown, you know. Sometimes a person can desire themselves. They don't realize that you're desiring something you have, you know, or you're desiring a way to implement your inner realms, but you're doing it from the macro view. So you like a person can draw a picture on a big piece of paper, or a person can draw the same picture on a small piece of paper, right? You can fulfill a lot of your desires, you know. In my inner realms, I fulfill a lot of my desires. In my inner realms, I can sit in a place and feel as if like there's I'm sitting at a, you know, you can make a palace, you can make a empty room into a palace with your inner realms. The inner realms are like how cyberspace in the future is going to actually visually overlay. The inner realms are sub-visually overlaying the outer realms. So in your inner realms, the person can enjoy anything. You know, in my inner realms have attempted, just playfully, I've tried it to visualize what anti-gravity would experience like, would feel like, as if closing your eyes and trying to visualize being in a space station and trying to actually replicate the sensory through the inner realm, a sensory reaction. You know, so it's like, anyways. So thanks for listening, guys. I hope this episode was helpful, and what can I say? We fear what we don't know, and the only way we can surpass the fear is by knowing what we don't know, right? So it's a familiarization process to some degree, right? They asked Kabir, this yogi, Kabir asked his student, Kabir shouts as one of his disciples, he's like, disciple! You know, the disciple's like, yeah! He says, disciple, tell me, what is God? Right? And the disciple looks at Kabir and says, God is the breath inside the breath. That means it's the unknown inside how you know you know. That unknown is, if you're fearless to stare at it, you go beyond the achievements of happiness. You know, you do something that the Bhakti yogi gets astonished, which is very hard, because in the path of Bhakti yoga, it's as if love is ultimate revelation. Right? What can a person love? They can love the known self, they can love the unknown, they can love the known world, they can love the unknown self, and they can love the unknown world. Now people are fearing the unknown self, and they're fearing the unknown world, and we're loving only the known world and the known self, right? So if we imagine loved all of it, it could be like the wings of a bird, where the inner realms and the outer realms, like symmetrically, like how a bird, they move at the same time. Right? And when they move at the same time, it accesses flight, where it's as if like two dragons. Imagine a black and white dragon spiraling vertically into the sky, and you're like a villager kid in China back in the day and seeing this, and the moonlight's like the background glow, where the dragons are just going up to the moon. Right? It's as if like the whole, that whole town was having the Kundalini awakening, you know? And it's interpretation, because words, you are a being, your being before words are being identified as the doer, right? So it's contentment with your being. That's the ultimate desire. I had an experience, I'll share this, guys, before I end off. This was a while back. I experienced maybe like a year ago, a year and a half ago. I experienced a near-death an inner near-death experience, a very intense one. Something had happened in my outer realms that had made me, I literally felt I was exiting this plane. I felt something, and it wasn't anything messed up. It was just something. It was a situation I was in, And that situation, I remember I was just standing and I felt a wind. And this wasn't like a wind of just an outer realm wind. It was a wind of everything I had held as a desire suddenly be released. It literally felt like a giant empty-handedness where your emotion on the world is there still. Right? It's as if it's like training that emotion, right? I mean, that's not a good way of saying it, training the emotion, but I'll say noticing an emotional contentment. There's something key about that. I literally felt everything leave. I felt a wind hit me and everything. Even the idea of these talks, the idea of myself, the idea of my family, the idea of how the future of our species, everything left. And for a moment, I was just nothing. And there was an emotion there, though. An emotion like a very dim glow in a lantern, right? And if this was in the inner realms, like in the outer realms, I'm just standing and but it was so intense. In the outer realm event, there was something going on that was intense, but it wasn't like dangerous. It was implicative of something chaotic. And so that's when I realized, oh my God, people are trying to just satisfy themselves in certain modes of thought. Do you know the intensity that awaits? So that's why it's like the unknown is something where we have proper control of the known self, and we have some sort of achievements and technology in the known world. We have to use the known world and the known self to become familiar with the unknown self and the unknown world before the known self and the known world are dismissed. So we have to recycle ignorance into clarity, and become familiar that the unknown is not something to fear. It is something that love will allow you to understand. So you can love your way out of even a thought of desire being the focal point of life, being the main filter of life. That means it's like, who cares even? Right? Who cares if it's like in one moment in the space-time continuum, a person desires coffee, and another moment they desire tea. It's like, great, you can create endless morality. Coffee is evil, tea is kindness. Tea is the opposite. So we can totally associate endless meanings. It's like, if you don't realize you're putting the meaning, just like when you read letters on an empty page and they have meaning. Objects, when we look at them, have meaning, and that meaning, in accordance to the future, becomes desire. So desire is something that the past doesn't know, but the present has seen it can have. Because have you seen the moment somebody really realizes they can't have something, they stop desiring it? It's as simple as that. That's really the wisdom in minimalism. That's like the wisdom the Joneses got, in competition with the neighborhood. It's like efficient advancement, or we wait it out in patience until an efficient strategy has arose. We have to live our lives into our lives, believe it or not. I remember in a talk I said the only way to live for life is to live for life. Right? If whoever serves the living, I feel you're going to endure the longest here. Those who don't care for the living, there is a difference. There's a difference, because those who want to be in the room, they are welcomed. Those who don't want to be in the room, they are not in the room. It's as if this is a video game map and there's invisible spectators. And the spectators choose or wait it out to come into the game. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna end it off here. Thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful.